On this Sunday night, all eyes are on Helsinki as pressure and concern mount about just what could happen behind closed doors. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will meet one-on-one, despite allegations of Russian meddling in American democracy. With the U.S. president still coming to the table, has Putin already come out ahead? Also tonight, leading France to World Cup glory, how a 19-year-old phenom and a retired player now on the sidelines made history. And the Canadian teen who could be this country's next soccer star. This is The National. We are just hours away now from the first official meeting between two world leaders who are already so strongly linked in the minds of many. Donald Trump is set to sit down with Vladimir Putin. Tonight, Susan Ormiston is in Helsinki ahead of that summit to size up what could happen.
A spectacular summer night by the Baltic Sea. You'd hardly know there's international intrigue and tremendous stakes. The Finns are pretty chill about hosting two of the world's most controversial strongmen. They've even come up with a new craft beer to lower temperatures and deliver some advice. Let's settle this like adults. Samuli Hutanen is the man behind the sold-out Summit beverage.
Well, I think it's important that, whether it's presidents, just people would talk more. So I'm really happy that they decided to come here.
Shrugging off a diplomatic storm at NATO, leaving chaos in the UK, Trump pressed to keep this meeting. Even after 12 Russian intelligence officials were indicted in the US 2 days ago. He's declared he'd like to have a closer relationship with Vladimir Putin. But the protests have followed him. Polls show both Trump and Putin are deeply unpopular here in Finland. Police have shut down parts of Helsinki's center around the presidential palace where the talks will start. But the Finns are veteran hosts for these two traditional adversaries.
President Ford and Party Secretary Brezhnev exchanged warm smiles and handshakes at the end.
Cold War politics brought Gerald Ford and Leonid Brezhnev to this calm capital to hammer out the Helsinki Accords. Mikhail Gorbachev and George Bush met to try to find some common ground.
You have to have dialogue. You need to talk to people, even if you strongly disagree with what they do, their views, their positions. You absolutely have to talk with them.
Will there be anything substantive come out of this?
No, unfortunately, I don't think so. That, of course, doesn't mean that Trump or Putin can't make it seem like something substantive came out of it.
But the real fear is Trump will not press the Russian president on his aggression in Crimea, in Syria, or meddling in the U.S. election. Putin, basking in the World Cup final, seems to have got what he's been pressing for, a place at the table with Trump.
Vladimir Putin is an intelligent and experienced operator, and he will play on Trump's vanity and his weaknesses, flatter him, to see where that gets him in terms of a PR victory, but maybe in terms of real-world tangible achievements as well.
Tricky shoals, but the Finns have a suggestion.
My advice is that, if things get tricky, a couple of beers and a Finnish sauna will solve everything.
A sauna summit? It is that unpredictable.
Okay, Susan, what should we watch for tomorrow then?
Well, body language. I mean, they're both disruptors, these leaders, but Putin is the man behind the mask and Donald Trump is all out there. Now, any obvious warmth between the two could help Putin at home, but it might hurt Trump, given that his party in the country is so divided over Russia. That said, this is a classic case of do you talk to your enemies or isolate them? And Trump has made the calculated risk to engage.
All right, Susan Ormiston in Helsinki tonight. Thank you for that. Back in Washington, Trump's determination to go through with this meeting is the talk of the town. Even some Republicans are expressing concern about what could result. Paul Hunter has that part of the story.
If you're wondering what in the world will come of this, you're not alone. Before he flew to Helsinki, even Donald Trump downplayed how the summit might play out.
Nothing bad's going to come out of it. and maybe some good will come out. But I go in with low expectations. I'm not going with high expectations.
How this conversation is going to go, I think, will be determined by the two parties. We have asked, and the Russians have agreed, that it will be basically unstructured. We're not looking for concrete deliverables here.
But front of mind for so many back home is the country and leader Trump's set to sit down with. Vladimir Putin's Russia, the country that meddled in the 2016 U.S. election, the leader Trump has praised while slamming others friendly to the U.S. It's become all but a pastime in America to wonder what hold Putin has over Trump. And now here they go. On all those Russians indicted for U.S. election meddling, this advice to Trump from a Republican lawmaker.
Your first request of Vladimir Putin needs to be, tell us which airport we can pick up the 25 Russians that tried to interfere with the fundamentals of our democracy.
Democrats, meanwhile, are bracing for Trump to get played. On issues such as Russian influence in Syria and Ukraine, some worry about that one-on-one meeting that opens the summit tomorrow.
You've got a trained KGB agent who does his homework. My fear is that Putin could come in with maps of Ukraine or maps of Syria and try to cut some deal and, frankly, take advantage of this president.
Not to mention that other recent summit with Trump.
I think if Kim Jong-un can eat the president's lunch, which I think he clearly did, it will be a very easy matter for Vladimir Putin.
Whatever happens, Trump is already predicting he'll get negative reviews from the press. Though today he also tweeted a compliment for putting on what he called one of the best World Cups ever. Congratulations, he wrote, to Vladimir Putin. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Joining us now with his insights on this much talked about summit is the Washington Post foreign policy reporter Christian Karl. Good to see you. So we know presidents have obviously met with Russian foreign leaders before, and they've even done it in Finland. So what is so special about tomorrow's summit? How is it very different than things we've seen in the past?
Well, I think the thing that's most different about it is we've never really seen an American president who is so eager to befriend the leader in the Kremlin. It's become, you know, a frequently observed point, but it can't be overemphasized. Vladimir Putin is one of the few people in the world that Donald Trump only says good things about. And he recently said, made this amazing observation, well, you know, Putin is KGB, but he's fine. He's fine. So I think a lot of us are going to be looking at this summit with intense curiosity to figure out exactly what's going on there.
You've spent a lot of your career in Russia, and I know that you've met President Putin as well. How is this meeting likely to play out for him? How is it already playing out for him at home?
Well, that's a great question. In fact, the Russian media are already declaring victory. There have been a lot of commentaries in the Russian press describing how great this is. You know, Trump has basically come to Putin. And you know, as you know, Russia has been in a state of considerable isolation due to the bad things that Russia has been doing over the past few years. And Trump has basically agreed to meet with Putin with no conditions whatsoever up front. So he's basically handing Putin a gigantic gift, restoring Russia's status as a great power, power that needs to be spoken to as an equal by the United States. And it's not really clear what Trump is going to get in return.
I mean, there is something to be said for speaking to people who may even be your enemy, you know, reaching out and trying to establish some dialogue. So given that, is that why Trump is going ahead with this meeting, or what could he possibly get from it?
Well, look, you know, relations between Russia and the United States are terrible, and that is not good for the world. Of course we should be talking to Russia. We have a lot of things to talk to them about. You know, the most benign reading of this is that President Trump wants to repair those relations because he thinks that a good Russian-American relationship is good for the world. The somewhat less benign reading, I'm sure we're going to be talking about in more detail later, is that Trump is infatuated with dictators, that he regards Putin as a fantastic, strong, authoritarian leader of the kind he would like to be himself. And then potentially there's the issue, which of course we all know about and has been discussed in great detail,
that the Russians may have a particular kind of influence over Donald Trump. And that's something we're all still trying to find out.
Okay, Christian Curl, I've actually got to leave it there. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Now to that other big story involving Russia, the World Cup. And while the scene in the host country today was fairly calm, this is what victory looked like tonight on the streets of Paris. Celebrations from France's win over Croatia took a violent turn. Rioting and reports of looting had police clashing with fans and launching tear gas in the streets, a starkly different scene earlier in the day. Roars under the Eiffel Tower. Cheers from every Parisian bar. And a massive celebration along the Champs-Élysées. France won the cup, beating Croatia 4-2. It's been 20 years since France first took home the title. And while the award ceremony got a little wet, neither the champions nor a soaked French president seemed to care. Understandably, the songs got a little sad in Zagreb. The Croatian underdogs toppled giants to get to the final, only to come away short. The one minor distraction during an exciting game was a brief invasion. Several members of the infamous Russian protest band Pussy Riot ran onto the pitch dressed like police officers. They were quickly hauled off by the real authorities. The only thing they seemed to have gotten from the protest was a high five from French star Kylian Mbappé, who, by the way, is the second teenager ever, yeah, he's 19, to score in a World Cup final after Pelé back in 1958. Of course, the game drew lots of attention across Canada, and while it was bittersweet for those Croatian fans here, as Natalie Kalata shows us, for France's faithful, it was nothing but sweet.
In Quebec's largest city this afternoon, jubilation from more than 10,000 fans.
I've been there 20 years ago. I'm from France, but I've been here 20 years ago, and today it's just crazy. It's amazing.
France's victory over Croatia at the World Cup was predicted, and across this country, celebrations erupted. In Vancouver, the pride was written all over the faces of these fans.
France won!
In Toronto, French supporters took over part of downtown. But there is another part of this story, too, the resilience of Team Croatia and what it could inspire here at home. Today's match was the country's first ever appearance in the soccer final. And even when down 4-1, a refusal to surrender, the team pushed for one more goal, charming many watching here.
Considering the history of the game, the way that they've played, 20 years, we haven't seen anything like this to finish, so second place, we'll take it.
For Paul D'Agostino and Robert Iorusci, today's match brought back memories.
I have a very emotional, strong tie to the Croatia.
That's why I'm cheering for them today.
Both were players for Metro Croatia, Canada's little-known soccer champions. The Toronto team won the North American Soccer League Championship in the 1970s.
I would say that Croatia would kind of feel the way I felt, because we may think they're underdogs, because France has played very well, but so has Croatia.
In the end, while it wasn't enough to secure a victory for Croatia today, both D'Agostino and Iorusci agree there's a potential win here for Canada.
Teams like Croatia, you know, obviously they're doing things right there, developing the players and get to this point, and hopefully we can see that here in Canada.
Now, wouldn't that be something to celebrate? Canada co-hosts the World Cup in 2026. Natalie Kalata, CBC News, Toronto.
Today's win is a big deal for the French coach for more ways than one. Didier Deschamps has now landed himself in the history books. This was Deschamps back in 1998. You might remember him. His hair wasn't quite so white. He helped lead France to his first World Cup win as the team's captain. That, combined with today's victory in Moscow, puts him in an elite club. He's now only the third person to ever win the World Cup, both as a player and a coach. Meanwhile, there is some sad news from the sports world today. Former NHL goalie Ray Emery has drowned near his hometown of Hamilton. And Renee Filippone follows developing stories for us on Sundays on The National. Renee, what do we know about what happened here?
Well, Rosie, at about 6 a.m. this morning, 35-year-old Ray Emery was on a boat with friends in Lake Ontario. Police say he dove off for a swim but never surfaced. His friends called 911, and along with the fire department and ambulance services, a dive team was brought in, and his body was found just before 3 p.m., 20 meters from where he jumped into the water.
The coroner will be the lead on the investigation and will be assisting. But at this point, I can say that we do not believe there to be any suspicious activity or foul play involved, and we do believe this to be a case of misadventure.
And Ray Emery's had a long NHL career with a number of teams spanning more than a decade.
That's right. The Hamilton native was drafted by the Ottawa Senators in 2001 and spent 7 seasons with that team. He battled through a number of serious injuries that led to ups and downs in his playing career, eventually ending up in net for the Chicago Blackhawks and won a Stanley Cup with them in 2013. He retired in 2016. The Ottawa Senators owner, Eugene Melnyk, issued a statement today. It reads, in part, Ray was instrumental in our run to the 2007 Stanley Cup final, and at his best, he brought a competitive edge and combative mentality to the game. And he was aggressive on the ice and known as a goaltender that wasn't afraid of a fight. And it's that anger that also got him in trouble with the law a number of times, including an episode of road rage. And last year, he was arrested for assaulting his former fiancée, allegedly assaulting his former fiancée. And Rosie, you know, while he could be a polarizing figure, known to some as Razor, tonight fans and teammates are remembering him as a fierce competitor with a magnetic personality.
Okay, thanks for that, Renee. Appreciate it. Renee Filippone in Vancouver for us tonight.
You're welcome.
People in central and eastern Canada are bracing for more extreme temperatures after another sweltering day with highs in the low 30s, but feeling closer to 40 degrees with the humidity. Take it from me. A heat alert remains in effect for many places, including Toronto. Environment Canada says things should cool down to the mid-20s by Tuesday. Chicago police released this body cam video of a shooting that sparked anger in the city last night. You can see here police approaching the 37-year-old man. He breaks free, and the video freezes on a shot, showing what appears to be a holster with a weapon. He breaks away again, and the video stops before he is shot. There's no sound on the video, and the city's police chief says he wanted to release the video quickly to clear up what he calls misinformation about what took place. The boys who were trapped in a cave in Thailand held a memorial today for Saman Kunan. He's the Thai Navy SEAL who died on July 6 while trying to deliver oxygen tanks to them deep underground. The boys wiped away tears as they wrote messages of thanks on his portrait. Doctors say all 12 boys could be released from hospital by Thursday. More Afghan civilians died in the first half of this year than any time since 2009. That's when the United Nations began keeping records of civilian deaths. 1,692 fatalities were reported. The UN says the leading causes of death were suicide bombings and other militant attacks. Ahead tonight on The National, the orange cones, the detours, the gridlock, why construction season is more than just a headache for drivers in one of Canada's biggest cities. And a little later, they're being confronted in restaurants, berated in stores. We'll look at how Republicans are being publicly shamed in Trump's America. Plus, he's one of Canada's greatest soccer players right now, and he's only 17 years old. Alphonso Davies sits down with Ian for tonight's national interview.
The assistant coach was just in here, and I said, what should I know about Alphonso? And he smiled, and you know what the first thing he said was? He's a great dancer. That's right.
Montreal is legendary for lots of things, but also for its gridlock, and this year seems worse than ever. So why is it a perennial problem, and will it ever end? We asked the CBC's Jayla Bernstein to find out.
As the saying goes, there are two seasons in Montreal, winter and construction.
The city's orange cones are so iconic, they've inspired a song. But no one is laughing now. This minefield of detours and traffic snarls is virtually unavoidable these days. This stop-and-go traffic is every driver's worst nightmare. And some say this could have been prevented if only the city had planned better.
Maintenance and repair and replacement were not done sufficiently in the late 20th century, and so we have to catch up now. That's really what's happening.
Back in the 19th and early 20th century, the city grew a lot, and then again in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. When all of that infrastructure started to age, urban planners say their warnings weren't heeded.
It's not sexy to spend money on repairs, right? It doesn't. When a politician says, look, I'm cutting a ribbon on something new, that carries a lot more weight for the electorate than saying, look, I spent so much money on annoying you with repairs.
Many North American cities are facing the same problem.
Estimates are saying that it's gonna cost Canada wide it's about $2 billion increasing annually in order to build new infrastructure because we are urbanizing our country.
In Montreal, one incident in particular might have jump-started a change in tone: the deadly collapse of the de la Concorde overpass. Since then, infrastructure spending has become a priority. Previous Mayor Denis Coderre helped to lead that shift.
You don't have any choice because you will have some underground infrastructure that will collapse.
Major arteries like the Montreal's Turcotte Interchange and Canada's busiest bridge are finally being replaced.
We have to make sure that our public infrastructure is, first of all, safe for all the users, but at the same time that it's better managed.
For now, Montrealers have no choice but to grin and bear it and hope that the next 50 years makes it all worthwhile. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
Lots more ahead tonight on The National. She was found alive a week after she drove her SUV off a cliff. We'll hear from the two hikers who found her in our moment of the day. First, though, Ian will be here after the break with tonight's national interview, a conversation with the Canadian teen who is poised to become a soccer superstar.
Hey, what is this? As a person, I'm a fun guy. I like smiling a lot. I don't really like to take things too seriously because life is too short to be frowning all the time or angry. I mean, I'm playing the game I love with a great team. I mean, I'm just enjoying every moment.
The people of North America have always welcomed me. If given the opportunity, I know they'll welcome you. Thank you.
You may remember seeing this video the day Canada, the United States, and Mexico were awarded the 2026 World Cup. 17-year-old Alphonso Davies, the face of the future of North American soccer. His dazzling skills have made him a star on Vancouver's Major League Soccer team, the Whitecaps.
He's got tremendous ability with the ball. He's one of these players that runs as quick with the ball as without the ball.
He's come so far so fast, and soon he's expected to sign with one of Europe's elite teams. When you ask his teammates about him, it's not just his athletic talent they marvel at.
I think one of the most important things is, yes, he's spectacular to watch on the field, but rooming with him and spending a lot of time with him off the field, I can tell you that he's a much better person, and that's a testament because he's a fantastic player.
So Canadian soccer fans have high hopes for when the World Cup comes here, and so does Alphonso Davies. And while a lot can happen in 8 years, Davies is expected to be the star of a Canadian national team which hasn't qualified for a World Cup in 32 years. I sat down with him in Vancouver a few days ago to talk about what's ahead and how far he's come since being born in a refugee camp in Africa.
1, 2. Oh, you almost beat your record. Go. Get four. Get four.
He seems so ordinary, just a young man helping out at a soccer camp.
Yeah.
But Alphonso Davies is Canada's next great soccer star.
Hey, what is it?
And already his story is remarkable. What should people know about you, first of all, as a soccer player? What makes you special?
I don't give up. I always try to play in the best interest of the team.
Alphonso Davies still going nicely up for Kamara!
overall, I'm just trying to develop my skills as much as possible.
And as a person, what should people know?
As a person, I'm a fun guy. I like smiling a lot. I don't really like to take things too seriously because life is too short to be frowning all the time or angry. So I mean, I'm playing the game I love with a great team. I mean, I'm just enjoying every moment.
The assistant coach was just in here, and I said, what should I know about Alphonso? And he smiled, and you know what the first thing he said was? He's a great dancer. That's right.
Probably dancing.
He sure seems to be having fun. Away from the pitch, he's like any other kid, whether it's playing foosball or finishing high school. His friend, Stefan Kriegel, says one of the things he finds so remarkable about Davies is a word we heard over and over again, humility.
He doesn't go around flashing any expensive things, any money like that. And he's humble just because he'll just eat out. If we want to eat something real quick, we don't have to go to a flashy restaurant or anything. He just keeps it simple, sometimes even home meals. And that's just humble to me.
Davies says that humility comes from here. His roots are in war-torn Liberia. His parents fled to Ghana, where Davies was born in a refugee camp.
Seeing where they come from and seeing where we are now, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to keep my head level, and I'm also trying to, stay humble for my mom. She gave me the opportunity, and I don't want to be, be getting a big head and then something happened, and then she goes, "What happened?" I don't want to disappoint her.
Hi, how are you?
This is from a video the Whitecaps produced and includes an interview with his parents.
I'm proud of him. Because if I look back where we came from, refugee camp, no food, no clothes, and here we are today. We have everything I need.
They made a little documentary about it, me watching it back and seeing my mom, because I haven't really seen my mom cry. I think that's the first time I've seen it. It really touched me, she really believes in me, and I'm happy that she let me come here, because all I want to do is just make her proud.
The Davies came to Canada when Alphonso was 5 years old, settling in Edmonton. It wasn't long before his extraordinary soccer talents turned heads. He joined the Whitecaps development program at 14. A year later, he made his MLS debut with the Whitecaps.
What a moment for the teenager.
Just 15 years old, he was playing Major League Soccer.
In my first MLS game, I was really nervous, and I was like, whoa, he's actually putting me in? And I was like shaking. I saw my thing go up. I was looking at it. I was like, wow, I'm actually going to do this. Stepped on the field. Once I started making my passes, completing my passes, I got relaxed.
Relaxed, but certainly not complacent. He's emerged as one of the team's stars and one of Canada's great players. Though there was one obstacle before he could suit up for the national team: citizenship. He did the test just over a year ago, after a little help from the Whitecaps.
A week before that, I'll just be walking around the facility, and I have the staff member just ask me a random question. Just, hey, what's Prime Minister's name? Oh, and I have to answer it quick. And so that really helped me a lot. So when I entered the test and I was reading the question, I was like, hey, I know this. So I got 19 out of 20. And I was like, I passed. So I was happy.
So too were Canadian soccer fans. Davies became the youngest ever player on the national team, which hasn't qualified for a World Cup since 1986. A few days ago, he was watching this year's semifinals with some of his teammates, including Kai Kamara. Kamara has become almost a big brother for Davies. He, too, is a refugee from Africa. He's talked to Davies about being proud of the place you came from and the place that took you in.
They show him so much love, and that's what's important, that, he's found a home for himself and his family. And when you can have that, you're going to give your all. And I can't wait to see, what happens later on. But right now, I'm enjoying playing with him.
What happens later is going to be big. When he turns 18 in November, the Whitecaps can transfer his rights, and some of the best teams in Europe will be bidding for his services. Bob Lenarduzzi is the president of the Whitecaps, which will be in line for a transfer fee from Davies' next team. What kind of money are we talking about?
Yeah, that's something that we haven't necessarily divulged, and for us, I think it's initially we're waiting to see what the market bears, and so we're still going through that process, but it will be a significant amount of money.
Do you have people calling you or calling your agent? Do you have people like what sort of process is going on now?
To be honest, I have no idea. Like, I don't deal with it. I mean, I have people contact me on different social media, but I just don't answer them. My agent usually takes all the phone calls. If he has something important to tell me, he calls me and tells me himself. But yeah, I don't really worry about that. That's not my side of the game. My side is to perform on the pitch.
He still has the rest of the season with the Whitecaps to focus on, and no matter where he goes next, he says he will always play for Canada. Soccer fans have already done the math.
As away goes Davies again.
Davies will be just 25 years old in his prime when the World Cup comes here in 2026. And Rosemary, Bob Lenarduzzi, who we met in that piece, he was a member of the last Canadian team to be in the World Cup in 1986. He says it takes more than one player to be successful in the World Cup, of course, but he feels that Davies is one of a handful of young stars, and Canada, he feels, will be able to do well in the World Cup.
That's exciting. And you kept talking about how down-to-earth a guy he is, and I guess that's because he must be.
Well, you know, I know people who are like the best athlete in their high school or university who are pretty cocky about that. And here's Davies, who's probably one of the best 17-year-olds in the world, and he is down to earth. And there are little glimpses of the kid in him, like when I asked him who his favorite soccer player is, and he said Lionel Messi, the Argentinian star. Here's a bit of that part of the conversation.
I've never met Messi.
And when you do?
I don't know. I'd probably be speechless, or I wouldn't know what to do. I'd just be looking at him, and he'll probably say hi, and I'll be like, I'd be so nervous. I don't know.
Seems like a cool kid. Thanks for coming in to bring us that, Ian. Appreciate it, especially today. Up next on The National, the newest tactic in American politics. Paul Hunter takes a closer look at public shaming in tonight's Dispatch from Washington.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
When one of us got a notification from a friend that, hey, Christian Nielsen is having dinner at a Mexican restaurant, do you think you can get some people right there to protest this? We're like, yeah, we'll be there.
Shame! Shame!
It is great to be back in Kansas City with men.
At an official Republican event, a protester confronts the U.S. Vice President about migrant children. He is quickly silenced and removed as the partisan crowd chants USA. It happened to Pence again just days later in Chicago. Same result. The heckler was shut down. Turns out there's more than one way to ambush a political foe. Opponents of the Trump agenda have begun targeting Republicans after hours, where they eat and even, yes, where they live. In tonight's Dispatch from Washington, Paul Hunter examines the shame offensive.
On a warm and sunny afternoon, not too far from the White House, it's a victory party of a kind.
Well, good afternoon, comrades. Good afternoon.
A planning session / fundraiser / recap of what those here would call a hugely successful month of June. The custom clothing gives you an idea of their politics. Their words are meant to motivate.
When we started this campaign, they said that you're too young, and we proved them wrong.
But it's their action that's caught the attention of America. At this Mexican restaurant in downtown Washington one night last month, an ad hoc demonstration. Caught, of course, on camera by those who were there.
How can you enjoy a Mexican dinner as you're deporting and imprisoning tens of thousands of people?
The woman at the table and the target of the crowd, Kirstjen Nielsen, Donald Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
When one of us got a notification from a friend that, hey, Christian Nielsen is having dinner at a Mexican restaurant. Do you think you can get some people right there to protest this? We're like, yeah, we'll be there.
The day before the scene at the restaurant, Nielsen had defended Trump policies that led to the forced separation of migrant children from their parents.
Parents who entered illegally are, by definition, criminals.
The public shaming that followed has become a powerful tactic in the growing pushback against the current U.S. government.
Some people have been critical of us, like saying, oh, you know, this is despicable behavior. What about the other patrons at the restaurant? You ruined their dinner. They didn't care. I can tell you for a fact that they were supportive of what we were doing. 3 of them got up and like stood with us and also yelled at Christian Nielsen. And a bunch of them walked out with us to say, hey, that was great what you did. We also want to get more involved.
Indeed, in the age of Trump, it's become a thing.
I just wanted to urge you to resign.
The mom who berated Scott Pruitt, then Trump's head of the Environmental Protection Agency. He quit soon after.
Vote you out!
The crowd chanting at Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell as he left a Kentucky restaurant last weekend. The Red Hen restaurant in Virginia, where Trump's press secretary Sarah Sanders was tossed out for her politics, not caught on camera, though demonstrators were later keen to remind the world it happened here. Not to mention the Democratic Congresswoman who urged Americans to keep at it.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd.
Free the kids!
Oh, and back to Kirsten Nielsen. After the scene at that restaurant, those still upset with Trump's policies on migrant families went to her home in D.C. with a loudspeaker, playing back the sounds of those migrant children crying for their parents.
It's definitely confrontational, and we're fine with that. What is extreme is like what's going on at the border. What's extreme is, you know, what the United States government is doing to migrant families.
The view of the group at the picnic, the Democratic Socialists of America, is simple. The times require forcefulness. Yes, they push pure politics, including an endorsement of rising Democratic star Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they promote public service broadly.
I was raised on the principle that you aren't fit to lead if you first aren't prepared to serve.
But the shamings, both organized and by random Americans following suit, have captured the headlines. They've also brought criticism. Is it all the end of civility?
This country was founded in protest. Like, the revolutionaries, American revolutionaries, were not polite.
Activist Brandy Brooks also likens it to the fight for women's suffrage and civil rights in decades gone by.
So now we're having this conversation about civility as if the major way that we've seen social change throughout American history is by everyone just being super nice and not ruffling any feathers. That has never been true on any key social change in the United States. You have to have people who are willing to buck that system, and they will never be considered polite by the establishment. They will never be considered civil.
And if you think it's just demonstrations, consider the extreme anti-Trump messaging throughout the U.S. Capitol by other protesters equally angry about what's happening in this country. The fine print on that one: who would Jesus deport? Check the light posts, the street signs, basically any place you can stick something, and you'll find not just slogans, but messaging intentionally over the top in targeting Trump, even if not everyone approves. Say the Democratic Socialists of America, be it those stickers or their shamings.
That is the point of protest, is to create a confrontation moment where you can use that to highlight and to put pressure on elected officials or, public officials to be accountable.
Emphasizing their view that if now's not the time for all this stuff, when is?
Good and morally righteous people need to stand up and say, we're not accepting this.
I think folks are realizing that it's time to go bold or go home.
In short, it's a means to an end. adding simply, "So come join." Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Next on The National, the moment two hikers found a woman who'd been missing for days after she drove off a cliff.
We asked her if, were you in the Jeep? And she said, that was my Jeep. And
at that point, we just kind of panicked with adrenaline, oh my God, you were in that car we just saw and you're alive.
First, though, the new official portraits just released of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge as a family of 5 now. They were taken after Prince Louis's christening earlier this week. The group shots include a few known members of the royal family, including their Meghan Markle and Pippa Middleton's husband.
Mandela taught us the power of action, but he also taught us the power of ideas.
Here's some of the stories we're following this week on The National. Former President Barack Obama will deliver a high-profile address on Tuesday in Johannesburg, marking the 100th anniversary of Nelson Mandela's birth. Aides say this will be Obama's most important speech since leaving the White House last year. It's expected to focus on the anti-apartheid leader's legacy, including bridging divides and resisting oppression and inequality.
Our plan to create jobs and grow the economy is working, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us.
On Wednesday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau plans to shuffle his cabinet that will carry his Liberal government through to next year's election. A source says it's a response to changing federal-provincial relations. Last month, you may remember, Ontario elected Doug Ford, who's already challenging Ottawa's stance on climate change and asylum seekers. And Doug Ford will meet his new friends, his new fellow premiers, for the first time in New Brunswick later this week. Top of the agenda for that meeting will be establishing a united front on trade, given what's happening with the U.S. Premiers will also talk about filling the gap left in the wake of Greyhound Canada's recent cancellations, especially in rural and Indigenous communities. Well, environmental protection is top of mind in Nova Scotia right now. The province wants to be the first in Canada to create a law protecting its coast from climate change. But as Kayla Hounsell explains, rising sea levels and erosion damage don't come with an easy fix.
With more than 13,000 kilometers of coastline, Nova Scotia bills itself Canada's ocean playground, but it's in trouble.
I'm noticing that the storms are a little more severe.
Margie Wade says the coast is at risk.
This berm has been here for hundreds of years.
The berm is a natural barrier providing protection from the ocean's fury for the freshwater lake and the homes that sit on it.
But this is your main soldier against storms.
But this winter, after a particularly bad storm, the berm broke.
It formed about a 30-foot wide gap, which let the ocean in. And then when the tide backed off and went back to normal, the lake poured out.
The provincial government has no plans to fix it.
2020, there are houses that are going to be into the ocean.
We're seeing much worse storms more frequently, unfortunately, in things like storm surge, flooding.
Nancy Anningson's group has been pushing for a Coastal Protection Act for more than a decade. It won't help the people or properties already at risk, but it will define a protection zone and restrict development within it.
The prospect of actually having a provincial act that will define the coast and protect the coast is extremely exciting.
Some action is already being taken.
Jenny, are you going to be running at this time?
This St. Mary's University professor and her students are testing out new equipment that will allow them to determine how fast the water is moving. Then, with the help of a federal grant, they'll restore 75 hectares of saltwater marshes.
By reintroducing flow into an area and having that salt marsh habitat, that provides stormwater retention. It provides a buffer against wave energy. We're dealing with erosion along these dikes. Well, by moving a dike back, we then have a bit of a buffer.
But while there is a lot happening, not in Margie Ward's backyard.
If they leave this wall in this state, the storms will knock the whole wall into the lake. And so where we're standing right now in a severe storm, there will be wave action rolling right across that lake, smashing right into all of that.
For now, residents have been told to move their homes back or up to adapt to the coast because it won't adapt to them. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Lower East Chesapeake, Nova Scotia.
We're learning details of an incredible story of survival. 2 hikers found a woman alive a week after she drove off a cliff. Her story is our moment of the day.
We turned around and Angela was right there in the rocks. Started walking back towards the campground, and we decided to go the long way back instead of the way we came, and that's where we found her.
They found Angela Hernandez, her shoulder broken, head concussed. She'd been missing for 7 days.
We asked her if, like, were you in the Jeep? And she said, that was my Jeep. And
at that point, we just kind of like panicked with adrenaline, like, oh my God, you were in that car we just saw and you're alive.
Hernandez's Jeep was destroyed. She later said she swerved to avoid an animal and ended up driving off a cliff near Big Sur National Park in California. Incredibly, to stay alive, she drank water from the broken radiator hose.
I just want to thank everybody. I'm sorry, I'm like in shock.
Her relieved sister had been searching for days, ever since Hernandez's last text on July 6th.
The simple text, I'm about to start driving, and then I replied okay with the heart back to her, and that was the last that I had any contact with my sister.
Hernandez was driving from Oregon to meet family in Southern California. Her sister described the recovery as slow and has started fundraising to help her medical costs. And what's more incredible, Chelsea and Chad, the people that helped her, went back out to get the radiator hose so they could give it to Angela so she could remember things. How do people come up with these things to survive? It's amazing. That's The National for July 15th. Good night, everybody.